Good evening. Welcome here for this celebration. I would ask the congregation to stand up for prayer. All of you stand up, please. Let's bow our heads for prayer. Loving God, we thank you for the completion of another academic year and for giving us the opportunity, short though it was, to play a part in the lives of these students. We are grateful for your guidance and love as we share in this important work. Lord, we thank you for our school, which has given us a safe place to learn, for our families who have cheered these students to the finish line and stood by their sides through the years filled with challenges and triumphs, losses and laughter, friendships and growth. Please bless and guide these graduates as they reach this end and as they chart new beginnings. May they strive toward excellence in all they do. May what they have learned make them truly be women and men for others. Please help them to use all that they have learned to make the world a better place, to serve the lonely, the poor, and the suffering. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to build our community with these young men and women. We pray that the bonds that we have made in school will remain strong. We ask that you would keep our footsteps firm and remind their footsteps firm and remind them that you are with them always. May they sense the freshness of your Spirit over their lives in amazing ways. May they be strengthened and filled with hope for the new roads you have in store. We pray for protection, for your covering, that you would surround their lives as with a shield. We ask that you would help them to live aware in a dark world and keep harm and evil intent far away. We ask for you to open doors that need to be opened and close every door that should be shut. We ask that you would raise up greatness in their lives to stand strong and true. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated. Okay, we'll start with handing out some certificates.
We'll hand out those of Agri-Science first. Christopher Unger. Tiffany Joyce Platt. Caleb Dweck. Brooklyn Cornelson. Jonathan Cornelson. Giovanni Cornelson. Modern residential wiring, so one student. Jeremy Cornelson. Auto fundamentals, also one student. Jameson Fair.
Okay, now the speeches will start. We will have 15 speeches brought by high school graduates. And we'll have 5 out of 5 and then have something else and have 5 speeches again. Okay, Tristan?
Good evening. I'm glad this day has come. I'm thankful for teachers that were willing to explain it for me the second time if I didn't understand it. For the colony that was willing to pay my school. And for my parents, bus drivers, school committee, and all the others that made it possible that I could go to school. The main subjects that I studied were social studies, language arts, biology, algebra, and few electives. My best subject was math. It was not always easy, but it was fun. Also, biology had some fun parts like dissecting of fish and few other animals. But to learn all the vocabulary words for the test was hard. I always waited to see what Mr. Friesen would have for devotions on Fridays. He sometimes had good stories with a lesson. Recess was a very fun part of the day. I enjoyed playing volleyball, but also for square when it was windy.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for being here on this special evening. It's hard to believe that this day has finally come. Although school has not always been fun and easy, I don't think I will ever regret studying as far as I have. Even though school has had its bad days, there have been a lot of good days and a lot of good memories have been made in school, thanks to the best classmates I could have ever wished for. I am going to miss hanging out with you guys all. And lastly, I want to thank all the teachers for being patient with me in school. I know it wasn't easy.
Finally, the day has come where I can celebrate the death of school. Going through a lot of mental sweat, and the day has finally come. Going to school was not always easy for me. I many times woke up on Monday mornings wondering if I'd ever be able to finish my goals. Feeling like giving up, I kept pushing through. In my lower classes, I never really enjoyed studying wholeheartedly, but what I enjoyed was recess time. Lunch recess was probably my favorite. Trying to climb every tree as high as possible, there was no tree that me and some of my buddies wouldn't be able to climb. If we changed to a new schoolyard, the first chance I would have would be checking out the trees, memorizing every branch, climbing them faster every day, and sometimes becoming overconfident. Oops. When that happened, which actually happened when someone almost totally fell off, we would slow down a bit for a while. When grade 7 came around, everything changed. We no longer had good trees to climb, plus there was no time for such. We were focused on a new game and some new studies. Now, even though I miss the good old days where we'd gobble up our lunch and hurry to get our trees climbed without a worry in the world, I still enjoyed learning to play volleyball. I also started to enjoy studying in the upper grades. Being able to calculate long algebraic equations and listening to Mr. Friesen's interesting stories on language arts group studies. But studying small gas engines was the best. Learning the big difference between 2 and 4 cycle engines, looking at how ignition worked and how valves are to be timed. And studying the most unique part of the engine, the carburetor. But what was most enjoyable was disassembling and assembling and making the engine work. Maybe it was just because I could talk with friends and crack jokes. If I look back, how it was just yesterday that I sat down there in the benches wishing to be able to graduate. There are so many people that have made it possible for me to go to a Christian school, and I will probably never be able to thank them all. But I would like to say a huge thank you to all teachers, totaling to be 17, that have been able to endure me, because I know it must not always have been easy. Also, thanks to my sister, who has helped me get done when I couldn't have done it myself. Another big thanks to my mom and dad, who could have used me at home, but have set time apart for me to go to school. Thanks to coffee, which has made it possible for me to concentrate better. But most of all, I want to thank the Most High God for putting me in a community where I have been able to learn about Him.
Actually, I'm just gonna read a report that I made, like for a speech. I'm reading it. The history of the United States. Before anyone came to America, they were the Native Americans, or commonly known as the Indians. They migrated to America because of the ice between Russia and Alaska. They would settle everywhere in both North America and South America. America was visited by many people of the Old World, which notably are Vikings, but also Chinese and Phoenicians. America was undiscovered for a very long time, that is, until Christopher Columbus came, on which Columbus thought he was in India, in which he called the Native Americans Indians. At one time, he convinced the Indians that if they didn't give them food, he would take away the moon. The Indians were enslaved by the Europeans before the Africans. The name America was named after the man Amerigo Vespucci, who discovered that America was a continent. After England defeated the Spanish in the English Channel, which destroyed the sea power of Spain, they colonized America, and one of these colonies is Jamestown. Many people went to America, including Anabaptists, to flee the persecution. After the British had won the French Indian War, which they had acquired Canada to the British Empire, they put a tax on the colonists, which is known as the Stamp Act. This angered the colonists, so the British decides to tax the people with tea, which further angered the people, which caused the Boston Tea Party. The American Revolution had begun. The Americans were led by General-in-Chief George Washington, in which the Americans had won the Revolutionary War, and George Washington became the first president, and the colonies became the United States of America. The United States of America has expanded its territories, including the parts of Mexico, but there was a problem. The southern states of America were the slavery states, and the northern were the free states. These slaves were the Africans. They were even there before the founding of the United States. Many want to abolish slavery. When Abraham Lincoln who is an anti-slavery person, was elected president of the United States, the southern states separated themselves from the United States and became the Confederate States of America. The American Civil War was fought between the United States of America and the Confederates. The Union had won and slavery was abolished, but the Africans were discriminated because of their skin color. America lived in peace until World War I started. At first, the United States were trying to be neutral, but the German submarines attacking their ship caused them to side with the Allies, and the Allies won, in which the League of Nations was founded, which the United States refused to join. But the League of Nations didn't stop World War II. In World War II, the United States also tried to be neutral, but the bombing of Pearl Harbor, which caused by the Japanese, caused them to side with the Allies, in which the Allies won when the United States bombed the Japanese cities of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which Japan finally surrenders. And then the United Nations was founded, which the United States joined. But the United States had another enemy, which is communism, that the workforce is owned by the government. This started the Cold War between the Soviet Russia, which is a communist nation, and the United States. But the Cold War was more of a struggle rather than fighting in the war. But there is still fighting in the war in both the Korean War and the Vietnamese War. But the Cold War was ended by the Soviet-Russian leader Mikhail Gorbachev when he gave freedom to the communist nation. And in Russia, after Gorbachev's rule, the Soviet Russia has fallen. And during the Cold War, the Africans gained the rights of an American. Today, the United States of America has been a powerful nation in the world. The United States is called the melting pot of the world because all of the races lived there. The United States of America was currently led by the President Joe Biden.
I guess the thing we all have in common is that we need food. For that part, it might not be unbecoming sharing some of my highlights of home economics. This is one of the electives I enjoyed most in school. No, this subject is not just about cooking. There is also sewing, painting, raising children, godly womanhood, gardening, and money management. One thing I've already enjoyed doing customarily is setting the table more or less like this course taught me. We might think we know English, but when it comes to know the difference between stirring, combining, mixing, folding, creaming, and cutting in, what does each one literally mean? Or how about if a recipe tells you to coop the chicken and dice the onions and mince the garlic? Okay, well, to coop refers to cutting food in cubes. Usually the size the cube should be is mentioned in the recipe book. Dicing means cutting food into small pieces, and mincing is cutting food into very tiny pieces. What do you do when a recipe calls for poaching an egg, searing the turkey, scalloping your casserole, scalding the milk, canning blueberries, etc.? Well, right now I'll not explain everything, but now you at least have a reason to study some home economics. Did you know that there is a difference between sifted flour and flour sifted? Sifted flour means you have to first sift the flour and then sweeten it lightly into a measuring cup. Flour sifted defines as first measuring the flour and then sifting it. To make some delicious muffins, first mix the dry and wet ingredients in separate bowls. Then pour the wet mixture at once into the dry one. Mix just until it's moistened all together. No worries if it stays lumpy, but the important thing is that you don't overmix muffin batter. Studying about gardening gave me another perspective about this job. It actually helped me to see how much gardening could be enjoyed. In the 8th book, it mentioned the importance of decorations or furnishings in a godly home. When strangers enter our home, they'll have an impression over us, partly already by just seeing what kind of models, furnishings, or accessories we have. Your house or your home states something about you. I found it interesting to learn how colors make us feel in a house. I did not notice it so much before as I did after studying colors. That red, for example, makes us feel warm and excited. When you feel so cheerful and warm and sunny, when you see yellow, you know it's because yellow just has this personality. Pink gives us a soft, gentle feeling. Blue now, this is one of the cool colors which produces feelings of peacefulness and cleanliness. Another thing I learned is that if you want your room to appear larger, even though you have a ceiling of 7 feet high, rather not paint your ceiling black. This will feel like it's even lower. However, having a white ceiling feels like it lifted. Curtains, soft pillows, and upholstered furniture produce a warm mood. Glossy, hard floor, however, produces a cool atmosphere. Wood has a special texture on its own. It makes people feel welcomed. Who doesn't want to give their guests that feeling, and who doesn't want to feel welcomed in their own home? Yes, wood apparently is one of the secrets for that. Now, of the books that I really enjoyed one of the most, I actually haven't talked about them now. I'll leave that curiosity for you till you study them yourself.
I will hand out the typing certificates. And these all achieved 30 or more net words per minute.
Jeremy Cornelison, 31 not words. Jasenia Cornelison, 47 not words. And Benjamin, 53. Nally, 41. And Ashley, 33. And Angelina, 45. Abigail, 38. Brian, 52. Alan, 51. Roger, 31. Kaylin, 45. Karina, 48. And Lynette, 42.
These have studied computer, the basics of it, and then yet also studied Microsoft Office, 3 of the programs. So they have an introduction or learned quite a bit of how to use those programs.
Tristan Cornelison, Cheyenne Dweck, and Jameson Fair, Ramon Zacharias, Caleb Dweck, Jeremy Cornelison, Jasenia Cornelison, and Abigail Cornelison. Tiffany Platt, Josiah Rampo, Brooklyn Cornelson, Jalen Bergen, Giovanni Cornelson. Caleb Dweck. Yamil Espinosa. Caleb Dweck, Bethany Craker.
Let everything that hath breath praise the Lord. Praise ye the Lord. Psalm 150, verse 6. You might think what I'm doing here, I'm graduating from high school. Thank you to my parents that have made it possible for me to go to school. The last few years I have done pretty much alone. I have had a companion with whom I did it, part of it, till grade 10. And I have enjoyed it. And also thank you to all the committee who have made it possible for me to go to school, to keep the school in good conditions, to provide me with books, and to all of you who have paid taxes that I was able to go to school. And my parents also did a hard work for me. They shoved me. They had to push me pretty much through high school, except once I started studying, it was very fun. Once I got into rhythm, it was fun. And I want to thank the list of teachers that have taught me and have had patience with me. Kindergarten, it was Lorena Dwick. Grade 1, Elsie Dwick and Colleen Reimer. Grade 2, Rebecca Cornelson. Grade 3 and 4, Betty Zawatsky. Grade 5, Krista Dwick. Grade 6, Ephraim Platt. Grade 7, Abram Gisbrach and Lovell Cornelson. And then in 2018, we moved to Oasis, and then I started a whole different school life. The school had very much Spanish, and I had to learn a different curriculum of learning. But it didn't take long till I got the hang of it and started studying with them. Grade 8 was Ernst Friesen, my teacher. Grade 9, Dewan Zacharias and Ernest Peters. And then grade 10 till now was Ernest Peters and the answer key. We made it all together, we could get it. And also thank you to Donovan and Harvey in preparing all the books so somebody could just pick them up and bring them to Oasis. And in Oasis, the school is a little different. We have a Spanish teacher and an English teacher, and yet one teacher for art. Spanish teacher was Gabriel Perez, and art teacher was Lisette Gonzalez. English teacher was Mary Beth for 1 year. I enjoyed studying math and also poetry. I will present one poem. Mr. Cactus. Mr. Cactus stands on his lot, day by day wishing for the hot. He drinks water for his collection, then he grows in every direction. If 1 year it gets hot and dry, he keeps his head up to the sky. Water from him doesn't evaporate, that's why he's able to operate. From the other plants, water leaves, now they wish for some cactus leaves. Usual plants are hiding their faces from the hot, coming to their places. They dry and sometimes even die, but cactus looks up to the sky. Mr. Cactus in himself casts trust, and afraid he is not of the dust. Once the dusty storm is coming, he just starts his normal humming. He knows that he is very prickly, and when he stings, the hand gets thickly. He likes the respect that they give, so can he then peacefully live. The squirrel now knows that the green friend has lots of water all to the end. He tries to get close to the root, gets poked, and jumps back in a chute. Cactus, won't you give me some to drink? Cactus said. Nope. Then I have to shrink. Satan will try to make you shrink, but Christ can give you a good drink. Dear friend, don't let Satan take a drink, else your spirit just will have to shrink. Be strong, like cactus in the dry. Keep your head up, look to the sky. Jesus is the everlasting friend. He will help you stand all till the end.
School has mostly been an awesome experience. Of course, there weren't just good days, but school has mostly been fun. There are experiences that I wish I could forget, but also lots of awesome memories that I'll never forget. I still remember being so excited to start kindergarten, but my cousin told me it was boring and we were almost just coloring pictures, but that still didn't change a thing. I was still very excited. Then in grade 1, falling down a tree, and the teachers and my parents being surprised that nothing had happened. Getting punished for lying to the teacher and not being able to play foosball on recess was a big punishment, since it was my favorite game back then. Grade 4 was a very difficult year for me. I didn't want to go to school, but I just had to. But then during the day, I'd have a nervous breakdown, and my parents had to often get me from school. Grade 6 was a year we as students and also the teacher would never forget. I think the teacher didn't know what he had gotten himself into. Since it was a class with almost just boys, there was lots of energy, meaning all kinds of activities were happening. One activity was throwing the baseball around during school time. I remember that I wanted to be nice to make a wedding card for the teacher, but I didn't get to finish it because he caught me. I don't remember the name I put on the card then, but I know for sure that it wasn't my cousin. Since we had been so wild in grade 6, the school committee had a difficult time finding a teacher for us the coming year. After lots of searching, they finally found a teacher. She was very excited, and I think we boys thought she didn't know what she had gotten herself into. But grade 7 ended up being one of my best school years. The best school year of all was high school. Even though the studying part was a lot harder, the recesses were much fun. Having to learn over 40 vocabulary words for biology seemed next to impossible, but I have also survived that. Algebra always wanted me to find his X and Y wasn't the easiest and funnest part for me. Mr. Friesen's story never got boring, and we always enjoyed them. Students from other years have mentioned how he has played tag with his motorcycle, but sadly I haven't gotten to experience that. I maybe haven't been the wildest boy in school, but I know that teachers have had it tough since I always had lots of energy. School has been a fun journey, but I'm excited to start the next chapter of my life. It felt like this day wouldn't come, but now all of a sudden it is here. Thanks to all of my friends, my parents, and above all, God, that have helped me through the school years. Congratulations, graduates. Today marks a significant milestone in our lives as we take a step forward to our future. As we move forward, let us not forget the memories and lessons we have learned from our past. Remember that our experiences, good or bad, have shaped us into who we are today. Let us take these experiences and use them as our guide to our future. As we move forward, let us continue to learn and grow. Let us embrace new challenges and opportunities with open arms. Let us strive to become the best version of ourselves and make a difference in the world. Finally, let us not forget to enjoy the journey. Life is not just about achieving our goals, but also about the experiences we have along the way. So let us make the most out of every moment and cherish the memories that we create.
I'm so excited for what we get to celebrate today. We're done. We've accomplished our goals, and we get to share that celebration with you today. School has had its share of good times and also not so good times even. But in the end, it has all been worth it. So many people in undeveloped countries don't even have an education, and a lot of those people who do have an education don't have a Christian one. So I'm thankful that I've not only gotten an education, but also a Christian one at that. Personally, one of my favorite things to study throughout the years was social studies and later on perspectives of life. I know, many people would not say that these were their favorites. But I truly find history interesting, at least if it is presented in a way that is easily understood. And I find it fascinating learning about different countries, people groups, customs, religions, etc. Also, I love words. I love how we can create so many things with them. Stories of fiction or nonfiction, poems, a piece of information, songs, and just so much more. And I actually liked how perspectives of life made me try to create different writings. One of my favorite things at school was recess. Now, that might sound a little shallow, but seriously, it's been awesome. I personally think I have had the best class to play volleyball with. I'm glad I got the opportunity to learn how to play volleyball in school, because now it's one of the things I enjoy most, and I know I'll enjoy it for years to come. But the best part of school was this, the people. I love how God has made each and every one of us so uniquely. We all contributed to the class with our different personalities, ideas, and gifts. I have made friendships with people in ways that otherwise would not have been possible. For that, I am forever grateful. We have made so many memories. We've laughed so hard that we could barely breathe. In a sense, we became family. I want to thank my teachers for all they did, for those that were patient with me when math problems and scientific concepts just wouldn't click, for those that made an effort to get to know me on a personal level, and for those, when I was having a tough day, you made it better without even knowing it. Thank you. I also want to give a special thanks to my friends and family. Your support has meant so much, especially thanks to my mom, who helped me with my homework. It was she that would help me with memorizing long definitions for vocabulary words when it was already late in the evening when my brain had basically already stopped functioning. And most of all, I want to thank God for all He has done for me. He gave me strength when I felt like giving up, and through all these years, He was the one that taught me the most valuable lessons of all. And so, 2023 graduates, as we step onto new territory, let's not forget to work for things that will truly last. And let's remember, God is always on our side.
The day of graduation has finally come. It is the day that I have studied for the last 2 years. It has not all been hard, but definitely not all easy. It requires a lot of courage and determination to finish. Sometimes it feels like there is no end, but when you start working, you'll see that the pile of work is slowly disappearing. My last year of high school was different from most people. Except for a few weeks of studying computer application at school, I studied at home and came to school only to write tests. Most people shake their heads and say it is impossible to get something done if you study at home. But it is possible, I at least did it. If you want to get something done, you can do it at home just as well as at school. I studied many different subjects. Some were very interesting while others were difficult to understand. I especially enjoyed the electives. I picked computer because I like to work on a computer. Accounting is fun and interesting, but it takes a lot of your time. Agri-science, in my opinion, is the most interesting course. Maybe it is because of its variety. Agri-science is not just about farming, it's basically about everything. Agri-science affects everyone on earth. Without agri-science, we would not be here. Horticulture is also interesting. It would be a good guide for someone who is working with plants daily. It contains much more information than you can remember. It is full of instructions how to care for plants, their soil, and environment. What I found the most interesting is that with proper care, you can grow an 18-inch tree that resembles an 80-foot tree in all aspects except size. Its bark may be rough and branches twisted and dry, but it looks just as a tree of its kind in the wild. Home repair and maintenance is exactly what it sounds like. The course instructs how to do repair and maintenance jobs, which you can do yourself instead of hiring someone and spending more money than necessary. The part of math that I enjoyed most is calculating area and volume. I have written countless writings, and of all the writings, I find poems to be the most difficult. Finding rhyming words and the right timing and still having something meaningful is difficult. I think it is almost easier to write a story than a short poem. Although studying in a group study sometimes didn't go as fast as alone, I still enjoyed it, especially when most of the hour was listening to the teacher's story. During those school times, I think the clock went faster than usual. Like most people, I enjoyed recess most. That is the part I miss most when studying at home. It is hard to sit inside and study when the others are playing, especially when it's good weather for volleyball. I'm thankful for the opportunity that I could have and for the teachers and everyone who has made it possible for me to reach this goal.
Good evening, everyone. Well, it's hard to believe that graduation day is finally here. After 11 years and thousands of hours of studying, graduation finally came. Even though it's been a long ride, I'd say it's been a worthwhile experience. Graduation is an exciting time. It marks a beginning and an ending. A lot of memories from the past and a lot of dreams for the future. Even though school was never my favorite place to spend an afternoon, I'm going to miss school. I really liked recess. It was my favorite part of the day. I learned how to play volleyball and baseball in school. Some people say you should learn from your mistakes, in which case I would have learned a lot because I've made my fair share of mistakes. I've learned a lot in school. Even though I like some subjects better than others, I think they will all be of some use to me in the future. One of my favorite subjects was small gas engines. Each of us students who were studying small gas engines took apart and reassembled an engine. Another fun subject was car care, where I learned about how to take care of a vehicle and how the engine works. Another subject I took was computer, where I learned to type and use Office. Another subject we studied was social studies, where we learned a lot about world history. Two countries that we studied in more detail were the United States and Mexico. The history of the United States we studied in English, and the history of Mexico in Spanish. At the end of high school, I went to Spanish school. By far the best part of Spanish school was that we could go to Triple K every time someone had a birthday or there was another special occasion. Once in Spanish school, we brought barbecuers and steaks and made lunch there. In Spanish school, we played a lot of baseball. Even though baseball was never my favorite sport, I really started enjoying it. Field trips were another fun part about school. On a field trip, we always went to a place where we could learn something. Sometimes it was a factory or a museum. Even though we were always supposed to learn something, we were also supposed to have fun. This last year, we went bowling yet. Now that I'm finished with school, I would like to thank all the amazing teachers I've had throughout the years. Thanks to all the teachers that put up with us immature students. I would also like to thank all the people, friends, and family that helped me finish school. I also want to give a special thanks to my parents who encouraged me when I wanted to quit. I also want to especially thank all the coffee that got me through the last few years of school. I've made a lot of friends in school throughout the years, and I just wanted to say that I'll miss all of you guys and all the fun that we could have together. Well, I'm not a guy that likes to give speeches, so that will be it.
Charting a course is a new elective. It's the first year that we've had it. It's about financial and how to keep finances, especially for young people. Hey, boys really enjoy small gas engine. Seems like working on engines is the favorite part you'd like to do.
Okay, Fernando Bergen, Nathan Cornelson, Roger Cornelson, Kaylin Bergen. Benjamin Platt, Nellie Dirksen, Jasmine Lowen, Jonathan Cornelson, Angelina Peters, Nathan Cornelson, Brian Fair, Alan, and Alyssa Patko, and Lynette Cornelson. Servando Lowen, Fabian Cornelson, Jonathan Cornelson, Travis Penner, Roger Cornelson.
Lo and do, we come to the end of the bow and hoe school bend. Ye and we have enjoyed it, me and he have also not, but she and thee have made it. Yes, I wrote the poem myself, and yes, it does kind of make sense. And while you can obviously hear that I have not learned much about poems, and I have not paid very much attention to it, and I did not enjoy it, I remember a bit about all the feet and rhythm and meters, but my brain can't put that all together. So yes, I learned some stuff, but is it useful? Absolutely not for me, because I don't consider myself a poet. If you're smart, you've also noticed that I don't know how to start a speech. So I guess that's another thing I didn't learn how to do. I know this sounds all negative, but I have enjoyed school. Well, at least maybe 1.5 years of my school life. Like you might or might not expect from me, I have enjoyed volleyball the most out of anything else in school. But you probably didn't need to know that. Social studies was not it for me the last couple of years. Every book was hard, and also I didn't remember anything I learned in it. You know, in grade 9, I enjoyed it, but in high school, the books started getting hard, and I lost my interest in that, but hey, that's just me. I'm sure there's at least one person that enjoyed those books. Should I say the name? Well, yes or no, I'll do it anyway. I think Cheyenne enjoyed it. Sorry to put you on the spot. I could be wrong, but I could be right. I guess we won't know unless we ask her. Biology was actually fun. See, I'm not actually that negative. For some reason, that subject was fun for me. I'm not sure why, but it was. Probably because of the experiments, and it wasn't that hard. Although I did have to learn over 40 vocabulary words for one of the tests, it wasn't that bad. I actually did enjoy it. Algebra was cool. The last 2 books not so much, but the rest, they were also fun, although they were way too mind-boggling for me sometimes. But thanks to teacher Harvey Friesen that explained it so many times, I got around the corner eventually. Hats off to the patience the teachers have had throughout the years of my school life. Not to brag, but I was able to type around 80 words per minute while only having close to 80 errors. You might you might think, wow, for real, Josiah? And I agree. But I was, and I think I still am a good typer. Not the best, but good. That has been a very useful tool already, and I'm glad I took the typing course. Wait a minute, I do remember now that in language arts I actually brought a speech in front of my class, so I have had a little bit of experience already with bringing a speech. I don't really have an excuse for being bad at bringing a speech then. I studied car care, and you might be thinking, wow, this dude really doesn't know about cars enough, so he has to take a course extra for that. And yes, I will admit that most guys in here probably know more about cars than me, but I could still compete with you in arm wrestling. I've had a decent school life, and I've had a lot of very fun times in school. High school especially has been very fun for me, and it were the best school years of my life. I'm thankful for all the smart teachers I've had throughout all my years of school. At the end, all thanks to God.
Today we celebrate what many young people work to achieve, graduating high school. Years of waiting for this moment turned to months, months turned into weeks, and weeks turned into days, days that now have come to an end. I remember the first day of kindergarten sitting in a classroom full of people I didn't know. But soon those people became the best classmates, and I'm blessed for the friends that I've made during my school life. I've never really hated studying, but recess was always more fun for me, even though that meant sometimes rolling an ankle or scraping my knees and arms or getting hit in the face with a baseball bat. Thankfully, things never got worse. In high school, Friday devotions was something I look forward to every week. Mr. Friesen would tell us many interesting stories from things he experienced in his life and the lessons he learned from these experiences. These devotions have been very special to me and have had a big impact in my life. And even better if they took all school time. One thing I have learned is that mistakes are opportunities for growth. Making mistakes is inevitable and it is necessary to learn from them. Not to dwell on our failures, but to analyze what went wrong and to use that to improve and to grow. Learning in general is a lifelong process, and it is important to keep an open mind and a willingness to learn. As Proverbs 24, verse 16 says, "For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes." None of this would be possible without God. I have often taken this for granted, but it is truly a blessing to be able to go to a Christian school. Lastly, I want to thank all the teachers for the time and effort they put into get me here today, as well as my parents and friends who motivated me to keep going. And thank you all, family and friends, who have come to celebrate with us.
Finally, I have reached a big milestone in my life, being done with school. I have really enjoyed my school years. Studying electives in high school was especially fun. One elective I really enjoyed was home economics. The projects we need to do for those books give us hands-on lessons on the things we learn. Did you know that it makes a difference in what kind of pan you bake your cookies or cakes? The darker the pan, the crustier and darker your crust will be. If you want a lighter crust, use a lighter baking pan. The book that was about children had different interesting facts. 2-year-olds grow slowly because they are so active, and probably they also don't eat as much because they'd much rather explore than eat. 4-year-olds can be described as fast and furious, and they love speed and power. Though still quite active, 5-year-olds have a longer attention span and are thus calmer in some ways. I enjoyed studying a few books of horticulture. Here, the process of grafting finally made more sense to me. Grafting is not just about tying a stick to a tree branch and an orange will grow on an apple tree. Each die-cut stem has 2 different tubes, xylem and phloem. Through the xylem, which is the inner layer of the stem, water and minerals move from down in the roots up to the leaves. The phloem, through which manufactured food flows down to the roots, is the outer layer of the stem. Between these 2 layers is another layer, the cambium. This is the layer that is important in grafting. Why is it so important? On the inner side, the cambium builds the new cells for the xylem, and on the outer side, it builds cells for new phloem. This is why trees continually grow and get a thicker stem. Now on to the process of grafting. You have the rootstock, which is the plant used for the bottom part of the graft, and the scion, which is the part grafted onto the rootstock. Make a cut on both parts in such a way that the pieces nicely fit and stay together. This cut can be made in several different ways, depending on which kind of graft you make, a whip or tongue graft, a side veneer graft, or a cleft graft. But the cambium layer is important in each of these grafts. The cambium layers of the rootstock and scion must match and come into close contact with each other on at least one side. The cambium is the growing layer, so for the 2 parts to grow together, the cambium layers must match. If you want your grafting to be successful, the rootstock and scion must also be compatible, which means they must be able to unite, grow, and live together. For example, apricots can grow on peach roots, but they probably won't do well on almond roots. I found it interesting to study the elective Charting a Course in Your Youth. Teaching on Faith, Focus, and Finances, this is a very good book for us young people to study. If you are wondering what electives you should study, I would encourage you to go for this one. It talks about having a kingdom vision, a vision for God's kingdom. Numerous stories and down-to-earth examples make the book interesting. Many practical pointers are given on how to handle your finances. Where am I investing? In myself or in God's kingdom? Saving, borrowing, giving, buying a vehicle, and budgeting are discussed. Here are 6 steps for setting up a budget. Number 1, identify your goals. Where do I want my money to go? Number 2, estimate expected income. Number 3, make a list of expense categories. I must not make the categories too detailed, but make one for vehicle costs, one for housing costs, one for clothes, and so on. Number 4, track expenses. I should know what my expenses are on average so I can make a reasonable budget. Number 5, determine an amount for each category. Number 6, make it work. Just because I have money in a category doesn't mean I have to spend it now. I must not spend my savings either. I have learned a lot in this book that I wish I could remember and live out in my life. I am thankful that God has helped me to come to this point of finishing school. Though there were rough times, times when I was tired of studying, and times when I felt like I would never get done, here I am, and I want to thank God for that. I also want to thank my parents, siblings, and friends who have encouraged me and stood by me through my school years. Thank you also for all the teachers who were willing to teach us and the school committees who have made a lot of things possible. May God bless all of you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm thankful that I've been able to come to this point where I can graduate. I'm thankful that I've been able to go to a Christian school. School has most of the time been very much fun for me, especially in the higher grades. I enjoyed high school very much. Most of the subjects were fun. My favorite subject was literature. I loved reading stories, poems, and essays. Accounting was another favorite that I studied. Although it meant working hard, it has been worth studying it. Listening to Mr. Friesen's stories was always a big highlight. Teachers' devotions were also always very inspiring. Auto fundamentals was another subject that I studied. It was a very challenging subject, but it has been worth studying. So what is auto fundamentals about? In this subject, I learned about every basic part of the vehicle: the engine, transmission, axles, cooling system, lubrication system, and exhaust system, etc. Every vehicle needs these to work properly. The basic parts of the internal combustion engines of today are very similar to the first engine ever built. The motor is a very complicated thing which man has invented. But now, how exactly does a motor work? I'll try to explain some of that in a short way. So the simple basic parts I'll be talking about are the cylinder block, the exhaust and intake valve, the piston, and the crankshaft. Our vehicle motors are operated by a 4-stroke cycle. Stroke number 1 is the intake stroke. During the intake stroke, the piston is moving down the entire time. Meanwhile, the intake valve opens. As the piston travels down, it creates a vacuum, drawing in a mixture of air and fuel. This requires 1/2 turn of the crankshaft. Stroke number 2 is the compression stroke. In the compression stroke, the piston moves up while both of the valves are closed, thereby compressing the air and fuel mixture. This requires an additional 1/2 turn of the crankshaft. Next, we have the power stroke. During the power stroke, both valves are closed. Once the piston has compressed the air and fuel mixture, the spark plug ignites the mixture, causing a sudden explosion. The rapidly expanding gas pushes the piston down the cylinder again. With an ideal air-fuel ratio, the entire burning process can take place in as little as 6,000th of a second. The valves must be closed in this stroke so as not to let the pressure of the burning fuel out of the valve ports. This requires another 1/2 turn of the crankshaft. Stroke number 4 is the exhaust stroke. Now when the piston reaches the bottom of the power stroke, the exhaust valve opens. The spinning crankshaft forces the piston up through the cylinder, pushing the burned gases out. This requires one more 1/2 turn of the crankshaft. With all of these strokes, the crankshaft makes 2 revolutions. While the crankshaft is turning around twice, it is receiving power only during 1/2 turn. This is how the motor gets its power to drive the vehicle. So this is one tiny little bit about what I learned in auto fundamentals. Man was able to build an engine to drive him somewhere or to work for him. But then to think we as human beings are way more complicated yet. If we didn't have a brain to think and figure out things, man would not have been able to build a motor. Last of all, I want to thank everybody that has made it possible for me to go to school. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of us graduates. The day that looks so far ahead is finally here. First of all, I want to express my deepest gratitude to God who has brought me this far. It is only by His grace that I can stand here today. He deserves all honor and glory. I also want to thank all others who have made it possible for me to graduate today. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank my parents for allowing me to go to a Christian school and for not giving up on me. I want to thank them for the support that they have continuously given me and for all the times that they've pushed me to go on. My siblings have helped me a great deal. They deserve my gratitude as well. I am also very thankful for the school committee that has worked hard to keep the schools running. Teachers, thank you so much for all the time that you have spent preparing lessons, etc., so that we students could learn. Thank you for investing your time in us as students and doing your part in our education and forming of character. You have helped us immensely. Altogether, I have had 17 teachers, not counting those who truly helped out on days when the appointed teacher couldn't make it. They deserve gratitude as well. I couldn't forget to thank all of my fellow students for bearing with me and for making my school years fun and interesting. I am very grateful for the friends that I've made throughout my years of school, and I hope to keep those friendships even though we won't see each other half as often anymore. I have mostly enjoyed school, even though there were times when I really didn't want to go. I am especially grateful for the 3 languages that I've been able to learn and practice in school. It truly is a blessing being able to speak and understand multiple languages. I'm sure I will never regret learning them. We have studied a wide variety of subjects in school, among which math has mostly been my favorite subject. In science, I was fascinated by the variety of functions that our body has and the way that those functions are completed. I also enjoyed studying astronomy. Chemistry was more challenging, but also fun. The highlight of studying science has always been doing the experiments. Language arts was a fun subject, especially when it involved reading. Since I enjoy reading, studying literature in high school was a burden lifted off of my shoulders. Reading the stories and perspectives of life and truth was interesting. The part of school that overall has been the most enjoyable is playing. Playing volleyball with your class is one of the most fun things you can do in school. I'm glad for the chance that we have had to improve our playing. Going on a field trip was never a waste of time. I'm glad that the teachers took so much time in planning all of the field trips. Having spent such a big part of my life in school, I will miss not going. It has been such a big, but definitely fun, part of my life. However, I am glad to be stepping into the next chapter. My goal is to glorify God with what I do. I hope to do my part in the building of God's kingdom. Thank you.
Okay, today we have 15 graduates that are graduating high school today. We'll hand out the diplomas next.
The vocational students may line up. Ivan Peters, Tristan Cornelson, Ramon Zacharias, Aldo Dueck, General, Carrie Lowen, Samuel Peters, Tyson Savatsky, Tiffany Platt, Caleb Dweck, Roldan Elias, Josiah Rampel, Brooklyn Cornelson, Academic, Cheyenne Dweck, Jameson Fair, Christopher Unger,
Gell, dat is interessant geweest. 15 graduates wat der high school zijn daar gekomen. Ze hebben een diploma gekregen van Christian Light in Virginia. Ze hebben het ziel erreicht. Ze hebben al een speech gebracht. Ze hebben graduated uit, een diploma gekregen wel, die zal een speech brengen. So, dat is interessant geweest, al die verschillende dingen wat we hebben hier van Erd. We kunnen met een Erschulleven aanchecken. Ze hebben Gott al gehad en ze hebben nicht so eine gute Dag hat. Veel van die haar pauze zei het leicht. Aber studieren hast du auch sehr leicht. So, das ist interessant gewesen. Sie, die meisten Studenten, die da graduieren von High School, die dann am Alpha Schuljahr. So, actually, als ich 12 Jahre in der Schule gegangen, Kindergarten plus 11 Schuljahre, war das derstellig für die meisten aus. Und was habe ich gebraucht, um da zu kommen? Jeder Klasse. Kindergarten anfangen, Klasse 1, Klasse 2, und dann ist dort ganz bei Klasse 11. Sie können nicht bloß in Klasse 11 schon daheim gehen sein, so dass alle machen waren. Das braucht dazu eng anfangen und das einen feinen Grund kriegen von Education. Sie haben sich bedankt für all die Lehrer, die sie hier hat. Von da ja, vielleicht auch noch um die Highschool-Lehrer, aber actually, sie haben sich bedankt an alle Lehrer, die sie hat in ihren Schuljahren. Ja, es ist sehr interessant gewesen, hier, was sie vertalt haben von der Schule. Sie sehen, das hier eine große Klasse, Anfangs Schuljahr wieder eine große Klasse. Das ist eine Schule, die im Schuljahr vielleicht mal halb so viel Schulzänge haben, als das Anfangs Schuljahr haben. Wenn die da kommen, dann hier sagt man zur Schule gehen. Und Graduation, das ist am Ende vom Schuljahr. So. Und da ist das hier eine große Klasse. See, noch einmal congratulations to all you graduates. Und für all die, die noch nicht fertig haben, ich hoffe, die haben eine gute Summer Vacation, dann nur dem war mutig in der Schule kommen und die Schule anfangen. Dass die Schule nicht ein leichtes Jahr hat, meist Anfangs Schuljahr, dann bei mir hast ich dann wie eine Schuljahr nicht mehr ran. Conrad Reimer, der hat hastig graduate. Er hat fertig auf dieser Welt. Er hat graduate von dieser Welt und er ist nicht so wie frei ans Farm. Aber das wird ein großer Schock für diese Klasse. Viel Tronen heeft. Aber ich dachte an das Lied, was sie singen dort. Sie singen, yes, great is thy faithfulness, and strength for today, and bright hope for tomorrow. Dat is wonderful, die kracht wat God gegeven heeft. En die grote levende hoopning wat we hebben voor tomorrow. Nur het leven. Dat je hebt iedere dag fresh moed en kracht om waar weer gaan. Goed, we willen nu nog een Schlussgebet hebben. Waar we ons hart neigen zum Gebet. Himmlischer Vater, wir danken dir für das Tag, das du gegeben hast, und wir danken dir von dir besonders für das Schulschluss, was wir können feiern mit dieser Highschool. Herr, wir danken dir für die, dass du die Leuten geführt hast, weil das nicht alle Leiche war das, aber wir danken dir für die Mercies, die jeden Tag nie sind, und die Kraft, die jeden Tag gegeben ist, und die lebende Hoffnung, die wir haben. Nur das Leben zu haben wie dir. Herr Jesus, wir danken dir dafür. Herr, ich bete von dir besonders für die Graduates, die dann vor dich mit der Schule haben. Ich bete, dass die enthalten wirst, dass das was ein Sein sein verändert in ihr Leben, dass sie gerne dadurch dein Recht halten bühen. Muss die Lebenszeit sein dafür, was sie gelehrt haben. Und ich gefällt die anderen, die da nach wieder in die Schule gehen. Ich bete, dass die was sein für was hier war das, und ich bete, dass mit dir was nach wieder in die Schule gehen, wenn ich das neue Schuljahr anfangen wird. Herr Jesus, nochmals bete ich den Sein über diese Schule und über die ganze Versammlung. Das bete ich in deinem Namen. Amen. Ja, nu waren sie noch ein Lied singen, oder dass die Versammlung geloten.